Welcome to a program featuring interviews of state and federal candidates, as well as the incumbents from districts served by Clatsop, Marion, Polk, Tillamook, and Yamhill counties. I'm Ruth McEwen, an advisory council member serving Northwest Senior and Disability Services Advisory Council. I want to welcome candidates, incumbents, and advisory council members to the 2022 Candidate Forum, which is sponsored by our Senior Advisory Council and our Disability Services Advisory Council. Northwest Senior and Disability Service is a local governmental organization that provides Medicaid, Oregon Project Independence, Older Americans Act, and grants-funded programs. The mission of the Northwest Senior and Disability Services is to promote dignity, independence, and health, honor choice, and empower people. The assistance and support we provide consumers include information and assistance, in-home and community-based services, and financial and medical help, meal sites and home-delivered meals, option counseling, adult protective services, Medicare counseling, peer mentoring, money management, as well as health and wellness programs. Because of the number of state legislative districts that our service area covers, we have invited a large number of candidates to be interviewed. Each candidate has been given information on the format used in these interviews. Each candidate will be introduced by a member of the advisory councils. Then each candidate will have the opportunity to answer questions which will be timed. That way you, the viewer, can compare apples to apples. We thank these candidates for their willingness to share their views about services for Oregon seniors and people with disabilities.
Hi, my name is Stephen Meneses. I'm a volunteer with Senior Advisory Council at Northwest Senior Disabled Services. Today, I'm interviewing Ashley Pelton. She's a Democratic candidate for Senate, District 6. We'll be asking 5 questions related to seniors and people with disabilities. Welcome, Ashley Pelton, and thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you facilitating this for us, Stephen.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. To get started, tell us about your platform and experience that would encourage a senior person with disabilities to vote for you.
Well, thank you again for inviting me to discuss what I consider to be very important issues. Like's been said, my name is Ashley Pelton. I'm a licensed master social worker from the unincorporated Cottage Grove area, and I'm running to represent Senate District 6, which, if you're unfamiliar, covers the eastern rural areas of Lane and Lynn County and a small section of Marion County. I'm running on a rural agenda, which means I'm focused on addressing the needs of the rural communities in my district. So to me, rural needs aren't left and right, and neither are protecting our seniors and people with disabilities. Every one of us is somebody's child, somebody's parent, somebody's grandparent. And if there's anything I've learned in life, it's that nothing stays the same forever. Everything is temporary, and that includes my ability to use my body fully. And that also includes my youth. So I'm fully aware that this is a community of people that I will one day be a part of. You know, when my father is nearing, and my 1-year-old son will one day join as well. So we need to make sure that our programs and services maintain people's dignity to the degree we all wish for ourselves and for our loved ones, even during our hardest moments. And in addition to the rural issues that I've already mentioned, I would like to address the insufficiencies of our mental health system. My inspiration for running is my father. He's a war veteran and retired law enforcement officer who's experienced numerous mental health and addiction issues over his lifetime. When he experiences episodes of manic psychosis, I've watched him continue to fall through the cracks of the broken system. But it was through that I saw where the kink in the chain existed, the reason that he fell through the crack, which was due to how the law was written. I personally don't think that it's compassionate to discharge an actively psychotic person back onto the street just because they're not homicidal or suicidal, but that's what the law dictates. And so I'm sure that issues like this are written into other areas of our law, some that probably impact this community as well. And I'm acutely aware of the impact that badly written statutes can have on vulnerable populations. And that is a foresight I would bring into office with me.
Thank you, Ashley. Tell us what you know about OPI and how it improves the lives of seniors and people with disabilities.
So in my past, I've actually worked jobs and volunteered at things that are very much related to the types of services that OPI provides. For my first job ever as a senior in high school, I worked as an activities assistant at a skilled nursing facility where I got really good at painting nails and playing bingo. But more than that, it was creating the relationships with the residents there and coming to learn about them and love them dearly. I also spent many summers delivering Meals on Wheels to seniors and people with disabilities. That was something that I had routinely done every summer as a kid for a while. And then additionally, while I earned my undergraduate degree, I supported people with developmental disabilities live independently. So that was something I did constantly, whether it was home care or personal care, transportation, basically all of the types of services that OPI provides. I have some sort of connection to through experience in some way, shape, or form. But I appreciate OPI's dedication to helping people stay in their homes and to maintain independence and security. From my understanding, OPI is intended to help seniors and people with disabilities stay in their homes with the assistance of home care workers. And it's an alternative to a much more expensive Medicaid and includes essential services like case management, which for social workers is I'm very familiar with, helping people access those basic services that they need to stay integrated and connected to community. Home care and personal care, like we spoke about, are things I have personal connection with. OPI also provides transportation options, which I think is imperative to keeping somebody connected to their community. Respite care, because as we all know, social workers in general and home care workers, it's a very high burnout rate for people in those professions. So we got to make sure that, our home care workers are adequately provided for as well. And then OPI also provides the meal aspect of that. But to me, OPI isn't about or intended to be a program that helps people to just exist. It's about helping people continue to express themselves in the world amongst their loved ones within their communities. And it's just too easy nowadays to shut yourself off from the world and feel forgotten and to, quite frankly, forget yourself. So yeah, I'm fully appreciative of what OPI brings to Oregon.
Thank you, Ashley. Question number 3. How would you prioritize state funding, including funding that is matched with federal funds, such as Medicaid, for services to an increasing senior people with disabilities population?
Well, we should strive to create a system that is both compassionate and effective at meeting the needs of the people in these groups. My work history as a social worker in policy development has taught me how critical it is that legislation be drafted by and for the community. I have a broad range of grassroots coalition building experience. So for me, that means I'll be going to the experts, I'll be going to advocates, to the people in opposition to hear what their perspectives are. I'll be speaking with seniors and people with disabilities, and be speaking to caretakers as well. You have to get a full understanding of the picture and what's going on. You have to be willing to be willing and able to see through the politics of things, and look at ourselves objectively at our flaws. What are our shortfalls? The priorities should be addressing whatever needs currently exist and addressing the longevity of existing programs and processes. Let's try to encourage more home care, but let's make sure that we're not just setting people up to burn out in a very difficult industry. So what's the best way to do that given our current infrastructure? Are there steps we can start taking now to change something big over time? So, let's continue to make sure that our seniors and people with disabilities don't go hungry at night and are provided nourishing meals, because that's what anyone would want for their loved ones. But most importantly, let's make sure all of our good, well-working programs are improving each and every year in some way, shape, or form. We need to ask the right questions to the right people and work alongside a broad coalition of advocacy organizations, OPI service providers, Medicaid providers, and then also impacted people. Let's make sure that the system works as intended and then continue to strengthen the foundation for future generations.
Fourth question. During this time of increased risk of homelessness and food insecurities, what will you do on a state level so that seniors and people with disabilities no longer face a lack of accessible, affordable housing and receive appropriate nutrition?
So affordable housing is a topic on a lot of people's minds, and it's actually one of the topics I'm running on. Part of my community cooperative initiative that I put together includes expanding access to limited equity cooperatives, which opens up home ownership for people who don't qualify for the traditional home loan. It creates permanent, affordable housing options, and it decreases the overall cost to be a homeowner and then ultimately start earning some equity. Now, I'll give you a couple examples of what that might look like. It can look like a lot of different things. But let's say that a landlord of a fourplex that has senior tenants is going up for sale. We can create a law called the right of first refusal, which allows the tenants or the seniors the option to form a cooperative and purchase the property collectively before allowing outside parties the option to bid. And the new homeowners would then collectively decide to cap the equity they would sell at in order to maintain affordability long-term for future generations. But I kind of want to take it a step further. I think that there's more that can be done with that model. I actually want to make limited equity cooperatives even more accessible by using that blueprint and transposing it onto existing single family homes. I think this would open up home ownership and stability to seniors and people with disabilities because they could live cooperatively at an even more affordable rate. So for instance, a 4-bedroom house could act as a limited equity cooperative where a group of people with a shared affinity, and so we'll say seniors, that's their shared affinity, they would cooperatively purchase and maintain the house and property that they would own shares of and then earn limited equity on as well. And that's not a new idea. Limited equities cooperatives already exist in Oregon. They're just in a smaller scale. I think that we can expand that to be something that is more accessible for providing stability to our more vulnerable populations. In regards to nutrition stability, let's make sure that the resources we have out there are reaching people. We need to support our food banks and ensure that we have a way of getting food to people through programs like Meals on Wheels or senior mobile pantries. But in Oregon, with 8% of seniors facing food insecurity and only 62% of eligible seniors accessing their SNAP, that is an area of improvement, and we can get that number up much higher, and we should focus on that as well.
Last question. What would you do as a legislator to address the behavioral health issues that have been brought on by health issues and isolation related to the pandemic?
Well, mental health services, as I had stated prior, are a priority for me personally and then also professionally as a social worker. I'm actually part of the National Association of Social Workers Legislative Committee, the Oregon chapter. And we wrote and passed House Bill 2417, which was the CAHOOTS expansion bill, which is funding counties and areas across the state to create and implement mobile mental health crisis response units, and also strengthens the infrastructure for a statewide suicide and crisis lifeline number, which is the 988 number. So we put energy and time to that successfully. But I mean, in Oregon, we see that the highest rates of suicide is among men age 85 and older. We see that Oregon has the highest rate in the nation for seniors being hospitalized for overdosing and abusing opioids. You know, as we age and we start to experience physical and cognitive changes or limitations, that can be very challenging and overwhelming for the people who are experiencing that. And support needs to be there for people during this transition. It's especially critical to the well-being of these groups in our communities. As a legislator, I would listen to the needs of the community. Each community has different needs. So we have to be able to provide situational nuance. Not all things will work blanketly. Also, there are certainly programs that already exist. Let's make sure those are working as intended and are efficient and effective. Quite frankly, if we look at this at a community level, there are only so many people within each community that fall into our senior and people with disabilities population. The real work will be on the ground level, making connections face-to-face and working with people on an individual level. And that's how I will focus my legislation.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for answering some of these difficult questions and spending a portion of your day advocating for seniors and people with disabilities. And just giving us a gift of your time. So again, this is Ashley Pelton. She's running for Senate District number 6 as a Democratic candidate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
I want to thank the candidates on behalf of the members of the Senior Advisory Council and the Disability Services Advisory Council of Northwest Senior and Disability Services for attending our candidate interviews. Copies of the interviews can be checked out from Northwest Senior and Disability Services by calling 503-304-3451. Again, that number is 503-304-3451. We hope the information that has been provided will help you make informed choices when you vote. The opinions expressed here are not endorsed by Northwest Senior and Disability Services. For more information or to get connected to services provided by Northwest Senior and Disability Services, please call 1-866-206-4799. Again, that number is 1-866-206-4799. The advisory councils for Northwest Senior and Disability Services would like to thank Capital Community Media for the production of the forum. Thank you for watching.